Hello, welcome to Jason the Old Millennial. My name is Jason, speaking to you here in my basement in the great state of Kansas. And welcome to a live stream. I'm coming back doing another what I've been watching, which I try to do at least every month or so when I can fit it in with my other videos I'm making and collaborations I'm making, which I've been pretty busy doing a lot of collaborations with other YouTube members, especially in the vinyl community. I do a lot with. So I'm doing my own stuff. I'm still got one more album to talk about on my 100 favorite albums list. My favorite album of all time. So I plan on covering that next week. So I'll be done with that series, which I've worked on for like 3 years. So I finally get done with that series. Took me a long time to get through. Definitely probably won't do that again. It just took a little too long to get through that. Also, I'm doing my 100 favorite movies. So finishing up my 100 favorite albums, still doing my 100 favorite movies list. I'm at number 80 on that. I do 5 episode, basically. So still got 80 more movies to talk about, my 80 favorite movies on that list. Yeah, I'm still doing, got a lot of deep dives ready to go. Hey, how's it going, Abby? My good little sister there. Glad to have you here. Usually you're on these, what I've been watching live streams. I enjoy that you're there. Maybe you watch some of this stuff that I've watched. But yeah, I've got a lot of stuff to talk about. A lot of TV shows I've been watching recently, and then some movies. I've even seen some somewhat recent movies. I finally started watching movies that came out this year. I've been trying to catch up on movies from last year, and I finally got like 4 or so movies from this year, basically. And I'm still working on that. So, anyways. So these are kind of random. I just kind of wrote them down, and we'll go through this list of things I've been watching. Basically, anything that's on streaming that I've watched, I'll talk about a little bit here, anyways. Oh, before I do that, I wanted to show what I bought recently. Usually I do this whole video on what I bought recently, but I feel like since I'm here, maybe I'll just show it on this real quick. Didn't buy a lot, but just wanted to highlight some stuff I got through the mail. I got Buffalo Springfield, their very first album, Buffalo Springfield. Yeah, amazing album. I just covered this on my friend Nick's channel, Townsend 505. Me, him, and Briar from Briar's Music Showcase. We're going through the Buffalo Springfield discography, which was only 3 albums, so it's a real quick one. And we've done the first 2, Buffalo Springfield and Buffalo Springfield again, so we just got one more album to talk about. We're kind of covering the Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young, all the stuff that they're a part of. Buffalo Springfield has 2 members, Stephen Stills and Neil Young. So we're covering Buffalo Springfield since there are 2 members of that band. Anyways, and yeah, I gave this a 10 out of 10. It's one of my favorite albums I've listened to. It was on my 100 favorite albums list, but it was kind of low on the list. Strangely, re-listening to this album, I was like, wow, this album should be much higher on my list. It's so great. Obviously, has the hit song "For What It's Worth" of Opener. Hey, Playing Down Under. Glad to see you again. Thank you for showing up. Yeah, "For What It's Worth" obviously is my favorite Buffalo Springfield song. It's one of the best 60s songs. Definitely makes this album. The album didn't really sell that well. It did fine. I think it was like gold or something like that. And "For What's Worth" was a top 10 hit. It was the only really top 10 hit they had in their 3 album career. But obviously, everybody knows that song. It's great. But there's a lot of good stuff here. I think "Sit Down," I Think I Love You, really great. Let's see. "Flying on the Ground Is Wrong," great Neil Young song. Unfortunately, Neil Young he wrote 5 songs, but only got to sing 2 of them because I don't know, the company or the management thought he was the weakest singer out of him. Stephen Stills and Richie Furay were the 3 singers in the band, which is pretty cool. They had 3 guys that could sing pretty well. I mean, really good. And but him and Stephen Stills wrote all of the songs, but Neil Young only got to sing on 2 of them, which made him really mad. And eventually, he would quit the band basically pretty soon after this because he couldn't get over the fact that they didn't let him sing all 5 of his songs. Instead, he gave 3 of them to Richie Furay, which Richie Furay does a really good job with, like like "Flying on the Ground Is Wrong." Really great song. Neil Young does sing on "Burn," which is a decent song here, but really great song. I love another Neil Young song is "Do I Have to Come Right and Say It." Love that song. It's crazy that these weren't hit songs. These are all really amazing songs. And And then Out of My Mind, which Neil Young does get to sing. It's my second favorite song on here. Out of My Mind is an amazing song. Should have been a hit song. Neil Young is so good. The harmonies are so good. This is a folk rock album, I would say. A little country in there. Fear Aid throws in some country a little bit. But if you like harmonies, you like folk rock, this is an amazing album. I can't recommend it enough. Uh, Hall of Fame band there, Buffalo Springfield, and only 3 albums. Then I got The Swell Season, the first album by Glenn Hansard and Markéta Glova. And that's Face It with Glenn Hansard there. And then there's Markéta Glova on the back. A duo that came about because they were in a movie called Once. They got to star in that movie together. And they, in fact, I'll just show this because I have it. I also bought this as well. And that is the soundtrack to Once. And there's the two on the cover there. They're the two main characters. Both musicians. Glenn Hansard's from Ireland. Markéta Glova's from Czech Republic. They kind of knew each other through the music scene. And the director, John Carney, was a member of Glenn Hansard's band, The Frames, an Irish band. And then he became a filmmaker. And so he put Glenn Hansard as the main character in his first movie. And then they needed a female, so they got Markéta Glova because they knew her. Neither one's ever acted before. And they do a really good job. I love this movie. I have it on Blu-ray. I saw it in the theater when it came out. Love the music. Probably my favorite soundtrack of all time. Absolutely love the soundtrack. They write pretty much all the music on here, and it is some good, really good stuff. So they came out with this movie. They were in this movie. They wrote the music for that. The same year, they also came out with their first CD together. They decided to collaborate on a CD together called The Swell Season. They then would make another album called Strict Joy, and they changed their name to The Swell Season. So it's kind of confusing. But the first album is they use their names, Glenn Hansard and Markéta Glova. Second album, they use the name Swell Season. Then they haven't done an album since, which is too bad because I love both albums, both the first and second album. Strict Joy was number 11 on my 100 favorite albums list, and I talked about it we did an album exchange recently. I did with Nick, Adam, and Briar, and that was the album I showed, and everybody seemed to like that a lot. I love that album, but this album is still really good, and a lot of the songs on here are also on here. So they did take a lot of the same songs. It's a little alternative. Some of the songs are slightly different. Like it's not the exact same as they did on the soundtrack. It's like an alternative take maybe on the song, like a different take. Because when I listen to this, I just kind of noticed like, okay, that song sounds slightly different than the movie anyways. So, but yeah, I don't know what to talk about. I guess I'll talk about this first one, soundtrack. Yeah, I said amazing soundtrack. Also, the very first song, Falling Slowly, that's kind of their big hit. It won the Oscar for Best Song. So they're Oscar winners because of that. And it's the highlight of the movie when they sing that song, Falling Slowly. I love Falling Slowly. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. Probably my favorite movie song of all time. It's just amazing. The piano playing, acoustic guitar playing, their voices sound so great together. I really love Glenn Hansard's voice. He really hits some really cool high notes on there. Great melody, great chorus. Oh my gosh, it's an amazing song. Everything's really great on it, I would say, most everything. If You Want Me, another great, it's more of a Markéta Glova song, actually. She lead sings that one, but there's some harmonies with Glenn Hansard on that one. When Your Mind's Made Up is kind of one of the main songs of the soundtrack. They play it quite a bit in the movie, and it's kind of their big song at the end that they play to get a record deal. He's trying to get a record deal in the movie, and that's kind of the big song that he plays to try to get the record deal. So it's not one of my favorite on the album, but still a decent song by the two of them. But yeah, so much. Lies by Glenn Hansard, amazing song. One of my favorite songs isn't by them. It's by an Irish band called Interference, and they have a song on here called Gold, which is they played a little bit in the movie, and it's an awesome song. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. It's the only song that's not by Glenn Hansard and Markéta Glova, but it's an awesome song. Yeah, and Falling from the Sky, another great one. Leave is amazing. I love Leave. Songs like Leave and my second favorite song on the album is Say It To Me Now, the closer. This is a great opener closer. My two favorite songs open and close the album. But Say It To Me Now, it starts off the movie too. I think it's like one of the first songs on the movie. And Glenn Hansard has this incredible ability he crescendos. I've never seen a singer go from soft to loud as good as Glenn Hansard. And he basically is like screaming at the end of the song, and it sounds amazing. Like, he's a great singer and great at kind of scream singing. I don't know how to say it. It's amazing. He does the same thing in Leave. Leave, he also starts screaming towards the end, but it sounds amazing. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, so much passion, so much emotions, into the song that you just feel goosebumps when you hear it, kind of stuff. So I can't say enough. It's amazing. Even the title song Once is pretty good. All the way down, another great, just acoustic, just Glenn Hansard and acoustic guitar. That's what I love about this album. It's definitely a folk rock style music, indie. I think called indie rock or folk rock, I would say, is the style. I love that style, folk rock kind of stuff. Yeah, absolutely amazing soundtrack. Great movie. Hey, Mike, glad to see you. Thanks for sticking there, coming by. Yeah, Abby, yeah, Gold is so great. I'm glad you know that song because you know that movie. I love that song. But yeah, talking about 12 season, we get songs like This Low, which I think might have been on there. Falling Slowly is on here. Again, it's like slightly different, I think, if I'm right. But still a great song. Lies is on here, which is on the soundtrack. Really good. When Your Mind's Made Up is on here. Leave is on here. Then there's, yeah, some other songs that aren't on there that are still really great. But yeah, it's a great first album. I like the second album slightly more. Both are just amazing albums. I love that group. I've got now all their stuff that they made. I guess they're 2 albums plus there's one soundtrack, and they've been playing together lately. So I'm really hoping they come out with a 3rd album. That's my dream, because they did come out with a song. They have a song. If you go on Spotify or whatever or YouTube, they did put out a song together while they were touring anyway. So there are like writing together, sounds like, and collaborating together. So, oh gosh, I really hope they come out with another album. All right, last album this is very different. You probably don't know this person. His name is Jonathan Colton, and I really wanted to get this. This is a live concert called Best Concert Ever, and it's a CD and DVD. So I'm guessing DVD is the concert. So I've seen the concerts. It's on. I don't know if I've seen it on streaming somewhere once, and I watched the concert, and it's real fun. I kind of like this packaging. It's pretty cool. But yeah, I really like Jonathan Colton. You probably never heard of this guy. It's a guy I definitely want to talk about more. I think I probably use this as one of my album exchanges on my album exchange series, because I want more people to know about this this individual. And I like this concert is my favorite because obviously he has a lot of his big hits on here. I say big hits. He doesn't really have like a big hit song on the radio, but his best songs are on this concert. And there's some songs I'm not as a big fan of, but if you don't know John Colton, he writes kind of humorous, nerdy songs. So if you like the Big Bang Theory, I think if you like nerd culture and you like humor songs, I think you really like this guy. He has a great voice, and what I like about this concert is him and acoustic guitar, and he does have 2 other guys that join him on some songs. So there's actually some harmonies on a couple songs, or some background singing on some songs, which is real cool. If you listen to his studio albums, I don't think are that great. Like the studio albums he has, there's like maybe a couple good songs on there, and then there's a lot of other songs that aren't that great. And I don't like the production of like a lot of his studio albums. I think it sounds better just him and acoustic guitar. Funny enough, when he adds in electric guitar and bass and drums, for some reason it takes away the charm of the songs. And he's also really good in front of a crowd. Of course, there's some funny, dialogue in between some songs that you hear on here, and he's really good with the crowd. The crowd's laughing, they're enjoying themselves. I would have loved to see him in concert. I don't know if he does concerts really that much anymore. He hasn't really put anything out new in a long time, and he's not really out there as much. And this probably came out, I don't know, 15 years ago. I don't know. We came out with this, but I can't say enough. If you like comedy singing, I guess, but I say it's comedy singing, but the songs are actually really well done. Like the guitar playing is really good, the singing's really good. I mean, he does a really good job with the songs, but I do love the humorous tone to them as well. So I can't say enough. Check this. I'd say if you want to check him out, check this concert out because you'll get his best stuff. And I love his acoustic versions of the song. Let's see. I'm not sure if it's me, but Jason, you're lagging a little bit on my phone. Really? Okay. I can't tell on my part. Sometimes my internet has trouble, but right now it doesn't seem like it's having trouble, but I don't know what else I can do about that. I guess tell me if it's still lagging. Then I got a couple movies to talk about. I got The Princess Bride on Criterion Collection. I love Princess Bride. It's one of my favorite movies. And it's funny, I haven't. I think I used to have it maybe on DVD at one time, but I got rid of the DVD because I want to upgrade to Blu-ray at some point. But then seeing that's on Criterion, I love to get. If I can get Criterion, I'll get Criterion. The only problem is it's a little more expensive, so I hate that. But I don't know. It's fun to have something. I have some Criterion stuff, and of course, I love the artwork. Usually, they have a different alternative kind of artwork on it, and it's just fun to collect. I guess if you like to collect stuff like I do, it's fun to have something different. So I say, oh, here's my Criterion section of my Blu-ray collection, or whatever, and I have my Steelbook part and all this, so I do love collecting different types. Anyway, so when I saw this was on Criterion, I really wanted to get this. So I was like, I'll spend the extra money to get the Criterion anyways. But I haven't watched it yet on here, so I don't know if it has. I've seen a lot of the special features already, so I don't know if there's anything new on here special feature wise. But this is pretty cool. That's a cool DVD, Blu-ray look there, and then there's like a booklet that talks about like the making of the movie. So definitely be talking about this movie on my channel. Also got one of my favorite Pixar movies, Finding Nemo, one I definitely needed in my collection. Saw it in the theater, loved it in the theater. I've seen it so many times. Just a classic Pixar movie. In fact, I've seen this on DVD. I don't think I had it on DVD, but I think my parents had it on DVD, and so I've seen a lot of special features already. So I'll see if there's anything extra on here. If not, I mean, still, it's a great watch. Finding Nemo. And then the last movie I'll talk about that I bought recently is Zootopia, another one of my favorite Disney movies, actually, fairly recent movie. And I think they're coming off the Zootopia 2, so at some point they're working on that. This is like I bought it on Amazon, but it says like a Target exclusive or something like that. I don't know, but there's without the slip cover. But yeah, I love Zootopia. I mean, the Flash scene is so funny. Love Flash. The what do you call it? The sloth that works at the DMV. One of the great scenes of all time. But really great storytelling, I think, and love the comedy in it. Love the characters. Yeah, I'm pretty soon going to do I've seen every Disney animation movie. And so I'm going to do a ranking pretty soon on that. And this is definitely high up on that list. So, and it's also going to be in my 100 favorite movies as well. So I'll be talking about that there. Ryan. Hey, Ryan. Glad to see you here. Live action Find Nemo be incoming soon. They are doing one? Is that what you're telling me? How do you do that? Live action. It's just going to be animated fish, just CGI'd, I guess. There's not really there's a couple of humans, I guess, they can throw in there at the dentist office and whatnot, but mostly just fish underwater. And I don't really like when they do these live action of these. It's okay. I can see them doing live action if the characters are human. So you're saying they probably will. That's what I was wondering. Like, have you heard that they are, or are you saying they probably will? So you're saying they probably will, because they've been doing a lot of live actions. Have they done Pixar? They've done Disney. But anyways, yeah. So those are stuff I bought. So let me talk about stuff I've seen lately. First, I've got on my list some TV shows I watched recently. First one is What If, that came out this year. The second season, which is on Disney Plus, which is a really cool series about kind of alternative universes of the MCU. where things happen differently, and like, what if this happened differently in the story? How would that change the rest of the story? It's such a brilliant idea. I love the idea of it. First season I thought was really good. It's, to be honest, maybe the best thing MCU has done lately. It's been a while since I've seen anything really good come out of the MCU. And what if season one is one of my favorite Disney Plus shows, to be honest. And what if season two is really good as well. I really love this series. I hope they continue it because they come up with some really interesting ideas. I love the animation. I think it's really great. They do some serious ones. They do a lot of action-packed ones, and they do some comedic ones. I do love the comedy ones. I think are really great. My favorite is probably the Happy Hogan one, where he turns into, and I'm spoiling it, I guess, but there's one episode. It's Christmas time, and Justin Hammer, whatever, the Sam Rockwell character, like invades Stark Towers, and Hogan's the only one there, or whatever, and so he has to try to defend the tower from just Hammer and his henchmen, and he ends up getting injected with some Hulk serum stuff, and he turns into like Incredible Hulk. It's a really fun episode. Like, I absolutely love that episode. There's a couple episodes I thought were kind of boring, didn't care about. Love seeing like the ones that are in the past, where you get to see like kind of the first Avengers, kind of the older generation as when they were younger, and they were kind of more the superheroes at the time. That was a cool episode. And even towards the end, they do this like medieval, and there's a good storyline there with I think it's the Black Widow character. They do have a lot of episodes with her. She seems to be kind of the main. It's funny how I mean, I love how they have these different episodes with these different characters and different ideas, and somehow at the end of the series, they somehow interconnect them all, and all the storylines come together. It's really interesting. I never thought they would do that in the first season, and then when they connected them at the end, I was like, wow, that was a really cool way how to connect all the storylines, because they thought they were just one-off stories. But even in this second season, they take story ideas from the first season, and we see them. Or is it Captain? No, it's Captain Carter. That's who. Yeah, sorry, I'm getting mixed up with who. And I think it's Captain Carter that they have a lot of episodes with her in. And so they take her storyline from the first season, I believe. And if I remember right, I might be remembering wrong, but they take like storylines from the first season and implement here in the second season. I thought it was really cool, and how it all comes together at the very end. And there's this one episode where she's like in the medieval times, and they have these characters from the kind of this alternative universe where it's the same characters basically, but it's more medieval. I don't know how to say it, more that period. I thought that was really cool. Yeah, I love the episode where Tony Stark is on the planet from Thor Ragnarok, where you have Jeff Goldblum's characters, in charge. I love Jeff Goldblum's character. I forget what they call him, but he's like in charge of this planet and has these, gladiator fights. He's the villain. He's such a fun villain. And they have this whole race thing that happens, and he has to win a race. Tony Stark has to win like this race or something. It is a really fun episode too. I love those fun episodes probably the most. But yeah, I thought What If season 2, I thought was really good. Another solid season from What If. Another show I watched on Disney Plus I caught on is Echo. Echo is a character that this kind of spin-off show from Hawkeye from a year or two ago. And I loved Hawkeye. It's one of my favorite shows one of my favorite MCU shows. Maybe my favorite MCU show, to be honest, was Hawkeye. I thought it was really well done. A lot of cool new characters and other characters brought in. Love seeing Kingpin again. I love to see more Kingpin. He's one of my favorite villains. And I don't like what they did with him in this series, but I really hope they continue on with him with Daredevil whenever they get that series going, because Vincent D'Onofrio is so great as Kingpin. He's perfect as Kingpin. Saying that, Echo, yeah, so they take this character that was kind of a villain character, then turned, I guess, not so villainous towards the end of Hawkeye. She worked for Kingpin, but then she turns her back on Kingpin at the end. And she's this actress. She's Native American. She's deaf, and she has one amputated leg, or something like that. Am I getting that right? I might be forgetting already. She has like one amputated kind of like foot or something. So she's got a lot of interesting, dynamics as a character. And the actress who plays her is not really an actress, like well-known actress at all. She was kind of somehow they found a Native American actress who was deaf and an amputated leg, I guess. And so they just found the right person to fit the role. And so there's been a lot of complaints that she's not a very good actress. I think she's okay. She does the part fine. But I get that a lot of people are like, she's not the most charismatic actress out there. Um, Anyways, and the character is like a really good fighter. She's a really good hand-to-hand fighter, basically. She's like Kingpin's like number one assassin kind of thing. So I think it's a weird to make a spinoff when MCU is doing so not very well in the critically, I think, and um, yeah, it's just not getting the MCU shows are just not getting good reviews, and they have not been good, and the movies have not been good. They really need to find a really good character that everybody likes, like Daredevil. If they can come up with a good Daredevil series and hopefully turn around some of the MCU, that would be great. Um, because yeah, it's just been a lot of terrible stuff lately. And so coming out and they do these spin-off shows like Echo because I mean you got a Native American woman who is deaf and all that. So she checks all these, boxes of all these different, disabilities, minority, she's a woman. So they're like, yeah, they really want to push those kind of series out, but nobody wants the series. So it's just stupid. Disney puts out these series and nobody cares about. And Disney's not interested in putting out series that people actually want to watch and like. They just want to be diverse. They just care about, let's throw out the most diverse person out there and make a show around them. That's all they care about. And it's killing Disney and it's stupid. Saying that, Echo is not the worst thing I've ever seen. I think the first couple episodes I thought was actually pretty good. I kind of enjoyed it. The action scenes are actually done very well overall. I do love that scene where it's first episode, and this is, everybody should know this if you don't know, Daredevil shows up, and I love Daredevil. I desperately want to see a good Daredevil show. I do love the main guy that plays, I think his name's Cox. I think he's so good in that lead role. He's been doing it for a long time now, since he did on Netflix before. That fight scene I thought still was really cool, seeing Daredevil there. Kind of a teaser for, I think, a future Daredevil series, obviously. Kingpin's still really good here. It doesn't make any sense that he's still alive, though. I still hate that people get murdered, basically, and then come back to life. And you're like, how are they back alive? They just got shot in the head, and they're back alive. Like, it's just a scratch. And they do that a lot now, and I hate that. And then, anyways, and there's a lot of cool stuff. Like, I love how they start each series with a flashback of an ancestor, a Native American ancestor who had like these like supernatural powers or something like that. And then in the episode, she uses like the knowledge of this like ancient, of this ancestor in the episode. Like, some of that is kind of a cool idea. I think it falters towards the end, though. I really hate how they ended the show, where this character Echo, kind of gets these supernatural powers, and then she uses them at the end, and then everybody has like supernatural powers. Like, I don't know. To me, I'm more interested in a character that's just really good at fighting rather than having supernatural power. That's always been my thing. Like, I've always preferred like Batman, who's just a good fighter and has cool gadgets, over someone who's just has over Superman, somebody who has just superpowered. That's just me. So, and then how they did Kingpin at the end, I didn't get what was going on there. I didn't like it. So overall, I was not a fan of the show because I think it ended not that great. But there were some okay moments in there. So I didn't hate it either. Let's see, Ryan, I know you just wrote something here. Do you enjoy John Berthenol? That's how you spell it. Punisher, I love how absolutely brutal he is. Glad we're getting more of him with Daredevil. I love that actor, John Berthenol. He's one of my favorite actors out there. Anytime he's in the movie, he just totally kills it. He is awesome. I first saw him in Walking Dead, and he's like one of my favorite characters in Walking Dead. And he's in the first like 2 or 3 seasons of that show. That's when I first discovered him. I was like, who's this actor? He's so good and intense. And then he's been in stuff here and there that every time I see him, I'm like, this guy is so good. Yeah, and he keeps getting really good roles, so I'm glad they keep putting him in good stuff. His Punisher is the best Punisher we've ever seen. Like, Daredevil season 2 is my favorite season of Daredevil out of the 3 seasons, and a lot of that's because the Punisher is such a great character. He's one of my favorite characters, to be honest. I love the Punisher because I get tired of all these goody two-shoe heroes that are like, oh, I'm not gonna kill. I'm above killing. Like Batman does that. I think Spider-Man maybe does. I don't know. Even Superman at some point. And I love a guy that's just like, no, I'm gonna kill evil people. And if you do something bad, I'm gonna kill you. And I love that about the character. Like he doesn't give a crap. He doesn't play around. He just gets the job done. And yeah, I'd love to see more of John Bernthal as Punisher. He's amazing. All right, that's Echo. Now I'm gonna get to a really good show. Another good show here. This is a show on Amazon Prime. It's called Fallout. This was a video game. I never played the video game series. I've heard about it. Never played the game series. And I remember coming out with this. I wasn't really that interested or excited about a Fallout TV show, but I heard a lot of good reviews about it and a lot of people reviewing it. So I was like, I might check it out. It's got like maybe a little bit of a sci-fi element to it, and all that. Anyways, and yeah, when I started watching it, I got hooked in and I watched the whole series fairly quickly. I kind of binge watched it over a couple of days, I think. And it was a really good show. It's maybe my favorite show so far. Not that I've seen a lot of shows so far, but yeah. And Amazon's done some good shows like Jack Reacher. I'm still watching Jack Reacher season 2. So when I get through that, I'll review it. And I really love Jack Reacher season 1. Season 2 is pretty good too. So Amazon's got a couple of really good shows. And then they got some terrible stuff like Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time. Their fantasy stuff, oh, it's horrible. It's some of the worst stuff you ever see. But then they got some shows like Jack Reacher and Fallout that are really good. So I never know what to think about Amazon Prime. They're hit or miss for me. But Fallout was really good. I do thought it was an interesting story about a post-apocalyptic world and how different people live in this post-apocalyptic world. And they throw a lot of sci-fi monsters and so forth in here. Walter Goggins is so great. Like I love Walter. I've always been a big fan of Walter Goggins. Anytime I see him, he's always great. And he's definitely the best character. He plays the ghoul. But there's also flashback scenes of before the nuclear bombs hit in the post-apocalyptic whatever world. And we see him as a normal person, kind of, and how we kind of see how the whole how the nuclear war started and all that. Those scenes are great. I love that. But then his makeup work is so awesome as the ghoul. And he's like a somewhat Walton Goggins. He's really a nasty character. He's really almost a villainous character. He's not nice. He's murderous. Yet he's kind of one of the main protagonists, and he's so fun that I love the character, even though he does horrible stuff. It's one of those weird things, kind of like Game of Thrones, Walking Dead kind of things, where like, wow, this character's terrible, but I still like him. You get those kind of things here. Yeah, it's such a great character. He really shoots the scenery in all his scenes, and I think the main girl is really good. She's naive. I love the naiveness of her and the ghoul together are great. And we get this good world building, and all that. And obviously, they're really the ending shocking, surprising. Definitely leads you on to a second season. So I do hope they do more seasons of Fallout. I think it's a really good show. One of the best shows I've seen in quite a while. And my sister Abby agrees with me. So I guess you've seen it. Yeah, I really like the show. So definitely check out Fallout and What If you haven't. I've seen a couple comedy specials recently, and I won't go too much into them. I do love a good comedy special. And there's a couple of ones that individuals I enjoy, so I kind of watched them recently. But to be honest, hasn't been any really good comedy specials lately that I've seen. Been kind of disappointed. I saw Dimitri Deconstructed, which is Dimitri Martin. He's one of my favorite stand-up comedians out there, and I can't remember if this was. I think it was on Netflix. He does a lot of his stuff on Netflix, and he's such a great. He hits you with a lot of jokes, and it's a lot of observant humor where he takes some situation and kind of points out the what's funny about that situation and all this, and he does that so well. He has this whole bit where he has like his famous thing is that he has this I don't know what you call it, big notepad thing which he has drawings on, and he flips it over and explains, and he has like and he has like different graphs and stuff like that, and they're very funny. I don't know how to explain it, but they're absolutely hilarious. The different like stuff he draws on and how he explains it. He does that in each comedy special. For me, this was one of his worst comedy specials. The thing I don't like about it is he does a lot of editing that I just don't enjoy. What I love about stand-up comedy is just it's a guy with a mic in front of the audience, and we watch him do his stand-up material. This though, he went through it and edited the heck out of it, and I kind of hate the way he edits his stand-up comedy. There's some good jokes here and there. He still has some good humor, but it didn't land as much for me, and the editing was so annoying that it's probably my least favorite Dimitri Martin. There's some other really good ones on Netflix. I can't remember the name of all of them, but if you see some on Netflix, definitely check him out. He's really, really good. What's your opinion on British stand-ups like Ricky Gervais, Jimmy Carr, and Peter Kay? Peter Kay, I don't know that one. Jimmy Carr, there's a special that I haven't watched yet. I think that's on Netflix maybe, that I want to watch at some point. Jimmy Carr he's a very interesting comedian. He does have some funny, the way he delivers a joke is very funny and unique. And I do like the way he delivers jokes. And he is another guy who just hits you with some quick jokes. Some comedians tell a whole story that takes up a long time and has jokes within the story. And then there's comedians that just set up a premise and hit you with a bunch of jokes, and then give and then a new premise and hit you with a bunch of jokes. And I think Jimmy Carr's like that, if I remember right. It's been a while since I've seen a Jimmy Carr stand up. I will say Jimmy Carr is very. Sometimes the jokes are a little too crude for me, and I remember I've watched it before and kind of had to shut off because it was just a little too. What's the word? I say crude. I know there's a better word. Too vulgar. Some of his jokes are a little vulgar for my taste. I prefer a clean stand-up comedian over a vulgar stand-up comedian if I can, unless they're very, very funny. Sometimes they can win me over. But yeah, so Jimmy Carr, I don't know if you're a fan, Ryan, you can tell me what you think. I think Jim Carr could be funny. I'd be interested in seeing his new stand-up that he's done. Ricky Gervais, another guy. I really haven't watched any of his stand-up. I think he's absolutely hilarious on TV and movies. Like his Office is absolutely hilarious, and there's been some other British TV shows that he's done that he's been absolutely funny at. I don't know if he's not been as good in movies, but his TV shows are really good, and I think he's a very funny individual. I've seen like some bits of him on stand-up, and again, he's another guy who seems very vulgar to me, and so I don't know if I'll like him or not. Because I know he has a stand-up that I want to watch. He won the Emmy for best like stand-up or whatever special for Armageddon, which I think it might be on Netflix. And so I think I might catch that at some point because I do love stand-up. So I just want to see why this won the Emmy for stand-up. So I'm not as used to his stand-up material. I've heard some of it, and he seems another very vulgar individual. So we'll see. He's absolutely hilarious, and I should say in the Golden Globes, his hosting Golden Globes is some of the best, funniest stuff. So I might enjoy it. But thanks for the question there, Ryan. Appreciate that. David Spade and Nikki Glaser had specials recently, and they both weren't very good. Dave Spade had one? Okay. Nikki Glaser, I know she has one that I haven't checked out yet. And Nikki Glaser is very vulgar, so I might check it out. And if she's too vulgar for me, I might not get very far into the. If I watch a stand up and it's just too vulgar for me, I usually just quit it because I just don't like real vulgar stand up. And I've heard Nikki Glaser on. She's very funny. She can be very funny. I've heard her on different podcasts and stuff like that. She's very funny but very vulgar, I would say, and very good looking. She's like one of the best looking stand-ups I've ever seen. David Spade, he's another. I listen to his stand-up. He has a stand-up, his podcast. Him and Dana Carvey has one of the best podcasts out there right now called Fly on the Wall. If you haven't heard that, those two are absolutely hilarious together. David Spade and Dana Carvey, and they have great guests on that podcast anyway. So Fly on the Wall is a great way to listen to David. David Spade is really funny when it comes to being interviewed or doing interviews. Like, I love him. Of course, I was a big fan of him on Saturday Night Live, and I love Tommy Boy. It's one of my favorite comedies. His stand-up material hasn't been that great to me. Like, I saw a stand-up of him not too long ago, and there's some funny bits in there, and there's a lot of bits that don't work, and he's a little vulgar at times. Not the worst I've seen. I didn't know he had a new stand-up though. I'll check him out because I think he can be funny, David Spade. But you say it's not very good. Most stand-ups I've seen have not been very good, including these ones I'm talking about. Yeah, it's hard to find a good stand-up, it seems like nowadays. But I definitely check out some more. Another stand-up special I saw was Kevin James called Irregardless, which was on Amazon Prime. Kevin James is another one. You don't think of him as a stand-up because he's been doing a lot of TV and movies, and I think he's absolutely hilarious. Like Hitch is one of the funniest movies, and he gives a great performance there. He does a lot of Adam Sandler movies, like the Grown Ups, which I think Grown Ups is actually kind of funny. It's stupid but funny. And he's done some comedies that haven't worked very well. He's kind of a real hit or miss comedian, though he's funny, but the movie roles he's picked aren't the greatest, I think. But his TV show, Kings of Queens, is a really funny show. I actually really like that show, sitcom. And he does really good. I think sitcoms is his best, is where he's at his best, to be honest. But he was a stand-up comedian, and he has one of my favorite stand-up specials of all time. Don't sweat the small stuff, which he did back in the early 2000s, I want to say, and it is one of the funniest stand-ups. And what's great about Kevin James is he's a great physical comedic actor. What makes him, of course, famous is that he's overweight and he's but very physical. You know, you got a lot of people like that, like Chris Farley, John Belushi, Jim Belushi. You know, you get these guys that are a little overweight, but they are very physical in their comedy, and that's what makes Kevin James kind of funny. And his watching his stand specials are usually funny because I think he's essentially a really good comedic actor, so he uses that in stand up. His stand material is maybe not the great stand material necessarily. It's another he observes things and talks about things he sees and tells stories and stuff like that, and tells stories from the past and all this. But that's a great one. He did a second one on Amazon Prime some years ago that I thought was pretty decent. I thought it wasn't the best, but I thought it was a decent stand-up special. So when I saw he came out one recently, I was like, okay, I love a good Kevin James stand-up. And this was definitely the worst of the three I've seen. And a lot of it's because he's getting older and he's telling stories about his, kids. And it just feels like, one of those, uh, you know, I'm old and I don't get the next generation. There's a lot of comedians do that, and that material gets really old real quick. Just kind of making fun of the next generation. And he kind of gets into that now. And he tells a lot of stories, and the stories weren't that funny, and they take too long he takes a long time setting up a story, and there's not a really good payoff to it, unfortunately. And he does a lot of comedy bits that I've seen other comedians do. It feels like he does a bit, and I go, oh, I've seen another comedian do that even funnier. So to me, it was not a particularly great stand-up comedy special. Kevin James, irregardless. And kind of third comedy special I've seen recently is Bill Engvall, called "Here's Your Sign for the Last Time." I think this was on Amazon Prime as well. It's fairly recent. Stand-up. Bill Engvall been doing stand-up forever. I was a big. Well, thanks for watching, Abby. I really appreciate it, and have a good day at work. Yeah, Bill Evil. I first discovered him when I was like in junior high or something like that back in the '90s. He had this really funny comedy special called "Here's Your Sign." That's his like most famous comedy special of all time. And I had a best friend who had the CD of this comedy special. So it might have been high school. It's probably like high school time when we had CDs. Maybe junior high, we started CDs. And definitely in high school, I was starting to buy CDs. But anyways, my friend had a CD of this comedy special. And I thought it was the funniest thing I've ever heard. I still love that comedy special. Here's Your Sign from Bill Engvall, who you probably know mostly for the Blue Collar comedy tour. He does these comedy tours with Jeff Foxworthy and what's his name, Larry the Cable Guy. Those three, they did a TV show as well, kind of a blue comedy TV show, and there's a documentary about them. Kind of, you can see them going around doing comedy. And so he's part of that group, anyways. And he's been in a couple movies, and he had his own TV show at one time, which had Jennifer Lawrence in it before she got real big. Jennifer Lawrence played his daughter in the Bill Engvall show, funny enough. So I have a lot of love for Bill Engvall because I thought one of the first comedy specials I ever heard was his, and I thought it was so funny. He's had a couple comedy specials that have been decent, but never as good as that first one. And his best comedy thing is he has a thing where he says, "Here's your sign," which means a stupid sign. So someone says something stupid to him, And then he gives them, and he sets up these stories where someone says something stupid to him, and then he answers very sarcastically, and then he says, "Here's your sign, meaning people that are stupid should wear a sign that says I'm stupid." So then they're going to ask you a stupid question, and you don't get mad at them because you go, "Oh, you're stupid, so I can't get mad at you." That's his whole joke, and it's very funny. And that's why it's called "Here's Your Sign for the Last Time." He doesn't really do that in this comedy special, but anyways, now he's like in his mid to late 60s. He's much older. Before, he would talk about his marriage and about, his kids were very young, and he had a lot of funny stuff about that and his job and his growing up and stuff. And now he's gotten a lot older, and this was another just really not funny stand-up comedy to me. Again, he's talking about his kids and talking about the next. Again, it's the same thing I said about Kevin James. A lot of it's been on talking about, oh, the next generation. Here's all this stuff I don't like about the next generation, and so it just sounds like an old man ranting about the next generation, and I get kind of tired of that. He tells very long stories, and that's a problem. Again, he talks a lot about being old. A lot of stories about getting older and had to go, get my prostate check. A lot of old comedian men love to have. Almost all of them have a joke about getting a prostate exam. That's always something you have to deal with as a man when you get older. So it's always a. Anyways, I get tired of them. I'm like, okay, I've heard enough prostate jokes. I don't need any more. So, but we get all these kind of jokes from him where I'm just like, okay, like you're an old man. I get it. You have to have these medical issues. I don't know. The stories weren't that funny. He tells these long stories, not enough payoff. Again, I can't recommend any of these stand-up specials, unfortunately. That's my opinion on those. I guess I'll talk about something that kind of ties in with that. I did watch some of the Tom Brady roast, which was on Netflix, which was this big Netflix special event where we did a comedy roast. You have all these comedy roasts usually used to be back in the day on Comedy Central, where you take a celebrity and you have comedians and just celebrities go on there and then say the most horrible stuff you ever heard in your life, making fun of that person and other people around them. Anyway, so they did one on Tom Brady, and it was a Netflix special. I don't know if it's the first time I've seen something on Netflix like this, and a lot of people talked about it. So I was like, I guess I'll check it out, see if there's any good comedy here, some funny roast. I'm not a fan of the roast because they're the most vulgar things I've ever heard in my life. I usually can't watch them. I watch a little bit maybe, but they get very, very vulgar and say just stuff that should get you canceled, but somehow they get a pass. I don't know. I hate the stuff they say in the stuff anyway. So sometimes they'll be funny here and there, but most of the time I'm like, it's too vulgar for me. But I was like, I didn't know about this. What exactly I was going to get out of this Tom Brady roast, and why are they doing Tom Brady roast? I don't know. I think it sounds like he produced it, so it's like Tom Brady just has a huge ego. It's like, hey, I want to do a roast about myself. Anyway, it's 3 hours long. It is so long. It is way too long, and they have too many guests on there. But it was a huge crowd. I was impressed with the crowd that they had, and I don't care about Tom Brady, so like I don't really care that much about making fun of Tom Brady. And yeah, it was very vulgar. I could barely watch this show. Nick Glasser was on there, and I heard Nick Glasser gave the best roast ever. She's really talked about, and I could barely watch her because it was just so vulgar. I was like, I can't get into this. And I do love that Drew Bledsoe. I thought he was funny. I thought it was funny to get him on there. Bill Belichick gets on there, and man, talk about the most uncharismatic speaker I've ever heard in my life. And he's trying to tell jokes, and he is horrible. Bill Belichick. Doesn't have a charismatic or funny bone in his body, and so he gets up there and does the thing. And they have different players come up there and try to be comedians, and they're just super vulgar. And it's like, okay, I don't care for that. I should say the host is Kevin Hart, and I like Kevin Hart in some movies like the Jumanji. I think he's funny, and he does some funny pairings with like Will Ferrell and Get Hard. I think there's some funny parts there. I see him in a movie every once in a while, and I usually enjoy him. He definitely has this comedy shtick about him that he does in every movie, so it's kind of the same comedy every time. I think a lot of people are getting over him because his comedy is getting very old. I've never really watched stand-up specials. He's hosted Saturday Night Live a couple times, and when he hosts Saturday Night Live, he always does like a stand-up at the beginning, and his stand-up is not funny at all. Like, it's some of the worst stand-up I've ever heard, and I don't get why he's famous for stand-up, because anytime I've heard him do stand-up, I think he's not funny. Like, I don't get it. I think he can be funny in movies, but as a stand-up comedian, he's not good, and that's what he's known for. Anyway, so he hosts this thing. So he does a lot of stand-up in it, the Tom Brady roast, and then in between, he the whole host thing is he introduces the next roaster, and so he usually in between he'll do a joke before he introduces the next roaster. So he is on this a lot, and this definitely makes me think he is just not funny. Like, this was, I really have a bad taste in my mouth after seeing Kevin Hart on this thing. He's such an overreactor. It's just annoying. His jokes were very vulgar and not funny. I didn't like a lot of stuff. And everybody made fun of him. Everybody that comes up, not only do they make fun of Tom Brady, but they'll make fun of Kevin Hart. And all the jokes are the same. It's Kevin Hart is short. They're all a bunch of short jokes. And it's like, okay, we all know he's real short. He's been made fun of being short for like a decade now, it feels like. And so the short jokes just weren't that funny. I was like, okay, we get it. He's short, nothing original there. But what's so annoying about Kevin Hart is he overreacts on every joke. When someone tells a joke about Kevin Hart, he stands up and he goes, that's him the whole freaking time. He just overreacts, and it's annoying and not funny, and it makes me not like Kevin Hart. After watching that, I go, wow, I think I'm not a Kevin Hart fan anymore. I used to be, but I'm like, I don't think I like him. He's just so over the top, and it's not funny. Anyways, that's my take on Kevin Hart there. The one funny thing I thought was Will Ferrell came on, and he came on as Ron Burgundy. He was doing the Ron Burgundy character while he was roasting Tom Brady, and that was kind of funny. It wasn't too vulgar. I like that he was doing something different. So that was maybe my favorite roast, but besides that, there's so much terrible stuff on there. And then Tom Brady at the end goes on there and he roasted everybody there. And Tom Brady goes on there, and I was like, I'm not a Tom Brady fan because I'm a Chiefs fan. And so I hate that the Patriots beating the Chiefs or that Tom Brady's won so many Super Bowls over the Chiefs. It makes me mad. It makes me not like him just as a Chiefs fan. But I respect him as a great football player. He's a great football player, the greatest of all time. And he seems like a fairly nice guy. I don't have any real big problems about him as a personality. But then watching this made me really not like Tom Brady. Because at the end, he's just very vulgar. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I have no respect for this guy at all. Any respect I have for him, I totally lost respect for Tom Brady. Because, he goes out there and just very vulgar. And then he ends the whole thing flipping everybody off. He goes, F you, and he flips them all off, and then he walks off stage. And I go, okay, I don't like you. You lost my respect. Any respect I had for anybody, I got lost on this whole the whole roast. Anyway, so that's a big rant on Tom Brady roast. I was not a fan of it. I don't know if everybody. I got 3 viewers, so I don't know if anybody has any opinions. Shoot them out in the comments. I'd love to read anything. I got another water bottle, so hopefully I can survive on one more water bottle here. All right. Let's talk about some documentaries maybe on here I got here. One of the coolest things I've got to see recently was the Let It Be documentary they put out on Disney Plus just this last month or so. And of course, they put out that big Get Back documentary a couple years ago, which is kind of the same material. And Let It Be, I've never seen the documentary. It's a Beatles documentary that hasn't been available on whoever is in charge. I'm guessing the Beatles. The Beatles are in charge. I guess the members of the Beatles or the family are in charge of distributing the movie, I guess, or something. Let It Be, and they've made sure that movie does not get out. They don't want people to see that movie, which I thought was weird for so long, because we all know it exists, and yet you can get a copy of Let It Be. It was a what do you call it? Because it was probably on physical media at one point, and then they stopped doing it maybe. So somebody took copies of it and they've sold it. So you can get a copy of the movie basically. And it's not good. From what I've heard, it's not like it's not great. It's not as great as if you got it like distributed regularly. But you have to, what do you call it? I can't think of the word to say about it. It's not an official copy of the movie, but you can find it like probably on Amazon or something. Somebody copied the movie or something. So I didn't really want to watch a bad version of the movie, so I never got around to buying it at all. And so I never thought I'd see this movie. I thought I'd never see Let Be. And then a couple years ago, when they're like, "Hey, we got this whole documentary from Peter Jackson, where he's taking a bunch of footage that they haven't showed, and he's making a new documentary about the same thing." I was so excited, like, "Oh, I finally want to see, what the whole, what happened during this whole, documentary thing." Because they're shooting this documentary while they're making this. They're basically like their last album, their second last album, the Let It Be album, and showing, their rehearsals and them writing the songs, whatever. And yeah, so that was cool. They did the whole Get Back thing. Uh, the only problem I have with Get Back is like it's 6 hours long. It's way too long. There's too much rehearsal where nothing's happening and they're just messing around, joking around, and not really. You don't really get to hear a lot of good songs in that documentary. Not until the end you finally get some finished versions of the song. But you do get a little more of a story in the Get Back documentary of what happened during those days, like how it started out in Twickenham. They weren't happy there, and then George quits, and they kind of do a lot more with how George quit the band for like a week, and then they had to redo everything, and then they went to the EMI studio and kind of rehearsed there, and then they really only got a couple, 4 or 5 songs together, and then they didn't know where they wanted to, and then they really didn't know where they were gonna do a concert, but they didn't know what they wanted to do, and then it's like, oh, let's just go on the roof and do a mini concert on the roof, and that's what they end up doing. So you do definitely get more of a narrative and a time, kind of, you get to see like how it all fleshed out in the calendar. You get to see the calendar and like how everything gets changed. So I like what they do with the Get Back. I just think it's too long. So when they put out this Lit B, I was so excited. I was like, oh wow, I get to see the original documentary for the first time. So yeah, that was so exciting. Get to see this documentary finally, and I loved watching this documentary. Getting to see a shorter version of the Get Back series, basically a documentary in basically 2 hours or less, whatever. And we get some of those rehearsal things, and but we do get some really cool musical moments that are just so great. And as a Beatles fan, it's a must-watch documentary, I think. And I actually prefer this over the Get Back documentary just because it's shorter and you get some great performances here. There is a boring middle period though, where they're just rehearsing and not really getting anywhere and messing around, and stuff like that. I do love towards the end we get Two of Us. We get like a really great performance of Two of Us in the EMI studio, and then The Long and Winding Road and Let It Be, like back to back, like 3 amazing songs. Some of my favorite Beatles songs of all time. We get really good live versions of those in the EMI studio in the Let It Be documentary, which is really awesome. And then we get the rooftop concert where they go over songs like Get Back, Don't Let Me Down, I think, Dig a Pony, the one after 109, I believe they sing up there. I don't know if I missed anything, but I remember those, at least those. Oh, I've Got a Feeling, I think they sing up there, something like that. Anyway, so they go through like maybe 5 songs that they've come up with over this month period or whatever. They've been rehearsing and writing songs. And it's great too. I love the rooftop concert. It's real fun watching them play together for the last time, basically. And it's iconic, and the songs are amazing. And yeah, so I can't recommend Let It Be enough. I thought it was so great. I'm so happy. I hope if they put it on Blu-ray, I'll buy it because I would love to watch it again and have the physical copy for the first time. And talking about that, there's another really great documentary that came out just this last week on Disney Plus, and it's the Beach Boys. They did a Beach Boys documentary, and it's about 2 hours long or so, covering basically how they started. Of course, the Beach Boys as kids or whatever, how they got started in the music business, and then their rise to fame, and then it kind of stops around 1980 or so. So it covers basically 50s, I guess, into 1980. You get that whole period. So you don't really get anything after that 1980 period. That's where they kind of stop it. So it feels like there's more story to maybe be told that they didn't do. But around 80, 81, I think, Dennis Wilson dies. So I guess they wanted to do everything before the members start dying, because Dennis Wilson died and then Carl Wilson died in the 90s. So you don't have them. Uh, they weren't able to do new interviews for the documentary, of course, because they both passed away. Um, but still, man, I love the Beach Boys. I think they're one of my favorite bands. Pet Sounds, one of my favorite albums, of course. And love the harmonies, love the catchy music. Okay, 83. So died the year I was born. Dennis Wilson. Yeah, so he died in 83. Um, yeah, and so it's getting to see the whole story. And I've seen documentaries on the Beach Boys before and stuff. I knew a fair amount about them already. So not everything is new, but there was some stuff that I wasn't as familiar with that was really interesting in the documentary. And of course, you get the good interviews. I love them. They have past interviews when they were younger. And then there's some new interviews. Like I love like Al Jardine's on there, I believe, a lot. Brian Wilson. I don't know if I can't remember if there's a lot of new material, but there's a lot of older material of him being interviewed. Um, I remember that. And then there's two members kind of the band that weren't the main. Oh, Mike Love. Of course, Mike Love is on there a lot too. He's been interviewed a lot. But there's a guy named David Marks, which I didn't realize this part of the story, is that there's this guy named David Marks who was with the Beach Boys for like 4 albums. And he was like 13 years old when he joined them and he was like the next door neighbor. And he came over and played with them, and they're like, hey, let's join the band. And so at 13 years old, he got to be like a Beach Boy, which is crazy. And he's on there. So I thought it was cool seeing him interviewed and talking about his part with the Beach Boys. And then also you get Bruce Johnson, who joins after Brian Wilson basically is kind of not in the group that much. And so they needed another member to take over like Brian Wilson's bass playing, I think, or something. And so they get Bruce Johnson, who they kind of meet, and they hire him. And then he becomes a kind of permanent member from that time on. So we do get a lot of Bruce Johnson also interviews. So that's kind of cool to see. He's kind of partly a Beach Boy. Obviously, the original Beach Boys are the three Wilson brothers. Oldest brother is Brian. The second is Dennis. And the youngest is Carl. And then their cousin, Mike Love. And then their friend, Al Jardine, is the main group anyways. And they were first managed by their father, who's horrible and abusive. And they talk about that. Of course, we all know about that. And then, of course, Brian Wilson's, kind of decayed into having a lot of mental issues after Pet Sounds. Of course, talk a lot about that, what's going on there. So you get a lot of the praises and the downfalls. You get a lot of good footage of them playing their songs. Anyway, so overall, I thought it was a really good documentary. If you like the Beach Boys, man, I hope Disney does more of these. I love these documentaries that they're doing. Disney movies have been terrible. The animation movies have been terrible. Pixar has not been that great. The live action stuff, the MCU's not been good. Star Wars has been terrible. But they're putting out some of the best documentaries that I've seen lately. And they've been doing that for a long time, actually. Since Disney Plus, they put out some of their best stuff is their documentaries. So I still hope they continue putting out these great documentaries. I love to see them, especially bands I really like and musicians. They also have good concert footage of like, I should say, I also watched Queens in Montreal on Disney Plus, and that was really cool. Seeing Queen back in like 1981 or something like that, playing in Montreal, like a famous concert that they did, and that was a lot of fun seeing Queen play live. And they of course have Taylor Swift, which I've watched some of that. I haven't finished that one. They have the Eras tour, and also they had Elton John's last he did a concert in Dodge Stadium, I think, and it's like his last concert. So that was cool seeing Elton. I've seen Elton John on there. I've seen Taylor Swift on there, basically. Just watched Queen. So definitely are up for more concert footage. So Disney Plus is doing really good with music. Like I hope they continue doing all this great stuff. They had a documentary on Ed Sheeran on there, which was pretty cool. Yeah, so continue that, I hope. The best thing I want to say about the Beach Boys documentary that I really loved was at the very end we have the remaining members. And there's been talks of Brian Wilson, Mike Love. There's some animosity between them because they've been suing each other over the rights of like song of the catalog because the dad like sold the catalog and the rights, which was insane. Um, and Michael Love wasn't happy about that. Anyways, but so it's cool. We got to see Brian Wilson and Mike Love together again, and also got to see Al Jardine, Bruce Johnson, and David Marks. So kind of the five remaining members of the Beach Boys. And they're old. They're like in their late 70s into their 80s. And so there's a scene where they're sitting on a beach at a table talking, and the camera kind of pans away. And man, that was such an awesome, sweet scene. I was like, oh, here's the remaining Beach Boys that we got left, and how long are they going to be alive? So it's great to see them now and go, oh my gosh, like, it's sad because like before too long, all of our legends are going to be gone, and so I do love seeing them together at least for a little bit longer, and getting to see them, seem somewhat happy, talking to each other, reminiscing about the old days. And sad that Carl and Dennis aren't there because they passed away. So it's too bad those two are gone. But we got the remaining members still together, and it's so cool seeing them on the beach, which was I think their first album cover was on that beach. So it was serendipity. It was great, uh, great ending to the documentary. Made me teary-eyed a little bit, to be honest. Yeah, so the new Beach Boy documentary was pretty awful. Oh, you didn't like it? It was more of a cheap summary of all the former documentaries of them. Yeah, they've had a lot of documentaries on them. Uh, and also those awful AI voices in it. I've heard or Al. Is it Al? Am I good? I've heard Al Jardine was pissed. Okay, I didn't hear about that. But then again, a huge fan. It's probably a decent doc for newbies. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I've seen some documentaries on them, but I still love seeing. I'm still up for another documentary. But if there's a better documentary out there, you can tell me, Zeb. If there's one that's better than that people should check out. Definitely check out any good documentaries. I'd like to check out. All right. Okay, so there's a documentary on Amazon Prime that I watched a little while ago, but I thought it was very interesting. It's called Shiny Happy People, and it covers kind of two subjects mostly, and now I'm gonna forget the names of what I'm gonna talk about. There's this family, I'm forgetting the name, that was famous because they had 20 kids, and they had this. First it was like 18 and counting, then 19 and counting, then 20 and counting was like the name of the shows. And it's this family from Arkansas who, they have like 20 kids towards the end of the show. They did a couple seasons, and so the wife has like a kid every year. I mean, for 20 years, she gets pregnant, gives birth to a new kid, and there's some twins in there. There's a couple of twins in there as well, but it seems like almost every year she's probably pregnant and has another kid. So, and it's all about, and they're very, religious. They're Christians, and they believe in not using contraceptives at all, or birth control. And they believe that whatever God allows them, how many kids God allows them to have, they'll just have as many kids as they can. Anyway, because they don't, because they're pro-life and all that. Anyway, so I do appreciate them as a Christian. I like a lot of what they stand for. The only problem is their oldest son did a lot of terrible stuff recently. I say in the last 10 years, whatever, and it's ruined the whole family, ruined the whole documentary. I mean, the whole series, and it's just a very unfortunate thing that happened where the son was dealing with that Madison thing where married people can have affairs basically, and he got caught on that first. Or no, first he got there were stories about him like sexually molesting women, girls that came over, and even his own sisters. And so there's some really gross things about what he was doing as a kid. And then he was on the Ashley Madison, I think it was called, website, whatever. He got caught on that. And he's married, and he has like 4 or 5 kids, I think, himself. And then he got caught with that. And then I think he got caught with child pornography recently, and he got put in jail for a while. So just a lot of terrible stuff from the oldest son. Just turned out to be a really bad person. And that's kind of ruined everything because the dad and the mom kind of tried to sweep everything under the rug, and then everything kind of came out, and it felt like they were trying to suppress the news, and it made them look really bad. It makes the whole, unfortunately, it makes Christian religion look bad, and that's what I hate about the whole thing that happened, because they seem like this really nice, happy family that's doing things the right way. And I don't have a problem with having a lot of kids. I think that's kind of cool. I think kids are great. I think the Bible says, kids are a positive thing to have in life, and having multiple kids is a really good thing. It's very positive anyways, having kids is very positive in the Bible, so I have no problem with that. They are very strict, though. I think one of the problems is they're just a super strict religious family, and I come from a fairly strict religious family, but their strictness is on a whole new level that I'm not a fan of necessarily. How they kind of how they dictate their kids' lives and stuff like that. Sometimes I'm like, that's a little much, but it's whatever. It's their life. They can do whatever they want as long as they're not hurting anybody. But yeah, so the documentary kind of covers that whole family and how they got famous and the whole downfall and all that. So you do cover a lot, and there's a lot of interviews with different family members and talking about it. So you do learn a lot about that, which I kind of find interesting. The whole downfall, the whole situation. It was like, man, that was such a horrible situation, and like what happened, they do cover a lot of like they were part of this. I forget. I'm not gonna remember everything. I didn't research everything before I did this video, but they're part of this religious group, anyways. And there's a kind of a leader at top. And I forget his name, but he started kind of this almost this what do you call religious sect within Christianity, and he wrote this book, and he got almost like a cult following where a lot of families kind of like bought in his what do you call it, almost like a religious denomination in a way. And so a lot of people liked it and bought into it, and I didn't know anything about it. And so this documentary is very eye-opening about this religious kind of denomination that's really has a lot of negatives about it. That I agree, there's some positives, there's a lot of negatives, unfortunately. And he ended up being not a very good person either, and he did a lot of corrupt things. So it was a corrupt denomination, or I don't know how else to call it, like almost like a cult denomination. And this family that does the 20 and counting, they were part of this group. And so, and then they talked to members that grew up in this like cult denomination, and have horror stories about it. And I think even the women were like sexually molested, maybe. And this guy, I think, sexually, the guy that heads it up, sexually, if I remember right, sexually molested women. So there's all these horrible things coming out, and there's a lot of just crazy stuff about the religion that I don't like. And yeah, so it's unfortunate. It puts a dark curtain on the whole 18 counting, which at the time seemed great, because it was like, for me, it was like, oh, this Christian family that has a lot of kids, and they're doing, very nice things, and they're really nice people, and they're trying to do things the right way, and you love seeing good Christian representation on TV. So I was a fan of the show and everything. And then you see something like this documentary, and you go, oh my gosh, like there's a lot of darkness behind the scenes that we didn't know about, which was very unfortunate. And the only thing I don't like is that it tries to make Christianity look bad. And it's like, Christianity is not bad. There's a lot of good Christians out there, I think, including myself, I hope. There's some bad Christians out there, and it's just unfortunate that the bad Christians make the good Christians look bad too, or just darkens the whole religion. And I kind of hate that about it, but it happens, and you have to call it out when it happens, I think. And so documentary, I don't know if it's trying to, part of me is like, I don't like the documentary trying to put a dark curtain on Christianity, but at the same time, it's very interesting information that I didn't know about, and something to know about this group is not good. I forget what the name of the group is, but so that part of it I agree with. But at the same time, I don't want anybody to watch it and think Christianity is all horrible people, because I don't think they are, in my opinion. Anyways, that's my take on it. It still is a very interesting documentary. Yeah, that's a classic REM song. It's funny. It's the name of the documentary. It's also an REM song. Happy Shiny People. But it's a series. Like, it's a couple It's like a bunch of episodes actually, which I didn't realize. So it takes a little while to get through, but it's an interesting series on Amazon Prime. All right. Another kind of show that I watched on Max, the HBO streaming series, streaming platform. One of the best things I've seen recently, and that is Conan Must Go. I'm a huge fan of Conan O'Brien. Conan O'Brien is, to me, like I was thinking recently, like he's like one of the 5 funniest people I think that's ever lived. Like I've laughed so much. I used to watch his show religiously growing up. I watched the Late Show with him, and then or Late Night with Conan O'Brien after the Tonight Show. I watched it not from the very beginning, but fairly. I watched it for a long time, like back in the '90s when it was first kind of starting to catch on. I was a huge fan of the show because I thought Conan is so funny. He's a funny physical comedian. He's a funny improviser. Um, his remote stuff is the funniest thing you ever see. Like when he goes somewhere and just talks to people, he's just naturally funny, and I love that about him. I've always been a fan, and I was so happy we took over the Tonight Show. And I hate what happened there. They lost the Tonight Show because I think he would have been the funniest like Tonight Show host ever. Then he went to TBS and he put on actually a pretty good show there. I really liked the show there. And he's changed the formula around a bit. He also has a podcast that I listen to called Conan Needs a Friend. It's a really good podcast where he gets a lot of good, of course, celebrity guests on there, and he's very funny. Definitely recommend that. Anyways, he also has been doing a lot of these travel shows. One of the things that he's found that the things that do so well is he does a lot of travel. When he was with TBS, in fact, that's when he started doing a lot of travel shows. We'd go to different countries and we'd see him do funny stuff in the country. And then he kind of went to a point where he quit the TBS show and he just did traveling stuff. And that's been like his whole thing, is just doing traveling comedy specials. So this might have been like 4 or 5 years ago. There was talks of him. He's going to get a show on Max, or at the time it was HBO Go. He was going to get a show on HBO, and I was like, oh, I was so excited. I was like, yes, I need more Conan. He's now like in his late 60s, I think, or mid to late 60s. So he's getting older, but he's still getting out there. He's still very physical. He still has that great physical comedy about him. But anyways, so I was so excited to hear that. But then nothing happened for a while. Of course, COVID happened. I think that killed everything because he couldn't travel and do this travel shows because of that. And I've been anticipating him doing this whole. When I found out it was a travel show, I was like, oh, I love travel shows. I love Conan. It's just a perfect marriage for me. Well, finally, just a month or two ago, finally, this show I've been hearing about for like 4 or 5 years, finally they put it on Max and called Conan Must Go. Now it's only the problem, the thing I hate about it, I say hate, it's only 4 episodes, I believe. He only goes to 4 different countries. And that's all. And it's like, that's not enough. I need like, 10 episodes at least of him going to like 10 different, I just can't believe he only put out 4. Oh my gosh. Like, I hope he continues doing this because it's, to me, Conan's the funniest when he's just talking to regular people and just joking around and doing little funny bits, that they come up with in the country. And you kind of learn a little bit about, though he says you don't learn anything about the country, you learn a little bit about the country. And yeah, so he goes to 4 different countries. And they're not very long, I don't think, either. Each episode's only like 30 minutes long. So I binged it one day easily. And I'm trying to remember, where does he go? I know the last episode he goes to Ireland. He goes like Norway. I think it's the first episode. It's really good. I think it goes like Argentina and like Thailand or something like that. I think are the 4 countries. Yeah, it's hilarious. It's everything I ever wanted in a Conan show. He is so funny, and I can't recommend enough. I don't know if you're a Conan fan or not, man, he is so funny. He did this Hot Wings, which is one of the funniest YouTube things I've ever seen. Him on the Hot Wings show, again, just absolutely hilarious. But yeah, Conan Must Go, nailed it, knocked it out of the park. Some of the best stuff he's ever done. So definitely check out Conan Must Go on Max if you can. All right, I'm gonna start losing my voice here, and I'm gonna I don't know if I'll make it very much longer. All right. We're an hour, 20 minutes in. Still got some movies to talk about here. We'll see what we can get through. I watched Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is not the new Ghostbusters movie, but the one before, because I wanted to watch that before I watched the new one, which I hadn't seen yet, Frozen Empire, which I want to see at some point. But I thought I'd better watch the last one, because I'll probably miss some story elements if I don't see Afterlife before I see Frozen Empire. So I was never that excited about a new Ghostbusters movie. I have the first one on DVD. I think it's a fine movie. It's not one of my favorite comedies, but I do like Bill Murray. And there's a fun sci-fi aspect to the movie, I guess. But anyways, so when they rebooted it kind of for this Ghostbusters Afterlife, new kind of a new generation, basically, I wasn't like super excited about it because I'm not the biggest Ghostbusters fan. And so I never got to see it until recently. I finally caught this. Yeah, and I didn't like it. I thought it was actually, I gave it like 2 out of 5 stars, I think, on Letterboxd. And a lot of it's just the main characters are these kids. I didn't really care for the kids that much, except for Podcast. There's a kid named Podcast, and he's the best character in the movie. He's very funny. There's not a lot of ghost busting in it. Felt like there's like one ghost that they'll chase her once in a while. They do a kind of the story kind of is almost a redo of the first movie. It's kind of basic. It's the same like villain coming back, so they kind of do a similar thing in the first movie, I guess. Paul Rudd is very unutilized here. Paul Rudd's just a funny actor, and it's like this is a role that I felt like you could put anybody in, and it wouldn't have made a difference. So Paul Rudd didn't really do anything to stand out. So it felt like a weird Paul Rudd performance to me. Yeah, I don't know. It just wasn't that interesting. I was kind of bored with the movie. Wasn't really didn't care for the characters. I don't know. It just didn't really do much for me. The only thing I liked was when the original Ghostbusters come back at the end. Actually, it was like actually a really cool moment to see them come back. And of course, Harold Ramis has passed away, but they have him kind of as a ghost come back. So I did get a little teary-eyed seeing Harold Ramis with the other 3 Ghostbusters. Like that was a cool moment. I really like that. It doesn't turn around the movie totally, but it's a good moment in the movie that I actually really enjoyed. And I think the funniest moment of the whole movie, spoiling it a little bit, was it's like I said, same villain comes back. In the first movie, the villain asks who like possesses Sigourney Weaver in the first movie, says, "Are you gods?" or something like that to the Ghostbusters, and Dan Aykroyd says, "No," and then they get attacked with like slime or something. I can't remember. They get attacked after that, and then one of them says to Dan Aykroyd, "Okay, next time someone asks you if you're a god, just say yes," or something like that. That's kind of a comedy bit in the first movie. Well, they bring it back in this movie, which I thought was one of the funniest things I've ever seen, which is one of the greatest callbacks I've ever seen in a movie, where again the villain asks them, "Are you gods?" And they all kind of look at each other, and like because they've been asked that before, and I thought, and then Ackwards like, "Yes," and so that was great because like, oh, great finish to that joke from the first movie where yeah, if you ever get asked if you're a god, just say yes, and then this movie they get the opportunity to say yes, and so that was great. But anyways, besides that, I don't know. I'm not a fan of Ghostbusters Afterlife. Not crazy. Not looking forward to the Frozen Empire movie. And I haven't heard good reviews from the Frozen Empire movie, so but I'll probably catch it at some point. I've been watching the Hannibal series. Hannibal, not the show, but the movie franchise. I call it the Hannibal on a Science of the Lamb franchise because I'm doing a collaboration with on a guy named Ron Cam and his channel Ron Cam, him and Jake Collins, 3D Jake, and another guy named Matt Wyatt. We've been going through the movies that deal with Hannibal Lecter. They invited me on, so I was like, yeah, sure. So I've been watching the movies, and we've gone through Red Dragon recently. We just reviewed that yesterday. So we've gone through 4 of the 5 movies, and then we're going to cover the TV show. So just say, I really like Silence of the Lambs. I thought it was great. Manhunter's terrible. The very first prequel movie or first movie that they did way back in like the 80s or something. Uh, Anyways, but I've seen Silence of the Lambs many times. It's a classic. I saw Hannibal for the first time a couple weeks ago, and we reviewed that movie. That's another terrible movie. I thought it was a terrible part of the franchise. Just so long. It's boring. Nothing tense. Nothing really suspenseful. That's the whole point of this franchise. It's supposed to be a very suspenseful thriller. I want to feel something. I want to feel on the edge of my seat, and it didn't feel like that at all. Hannibal. I thought Anthony Hopkins' performance was not good, and it's the character that he won his Oscar for, of course, for in 1991 for Silence of the Lambs, and Hannibal came out 10 years later in 2001. I remember coming out when I was in high school, and I remember people talking about it and how gross it was and all this, and it never interested me. And finally, like 20 some years later, I finally caught on to Hannibal, and it is it's not until like the last 30 minutes. It's a really boring movie, and in the last 30 minutes, they throw in some gross kills that Hannibal does, and didn't care for it all. Didn't care for again. There's no suspense. Didn't care about the characters. There's this whole long, boring part where there's an Italian detective because Hannibal Lecter lives in Italy, and so there's an Italian detective who's trying to catch him, and it was just a non-interesting character. Plus, you have Jodie Foster doesn't come back for her famous role that she won, Clarice, that she won her Oscar for. So, and they got Ridley Scott, which Ridley Scott usually good. He does not do a very good job directing this movie. And so Jonathan Demme, who won the Oscar for Silence of the Lambs, he wouldn't come back. Jodie Foster didn't come back because they didn't like the script. And so for good reason. It was a bad script. It was a bad sequel. Yeah, it was so unnecessary. We did not need this movie. Really wish they never made this movie, Hannibal. I would not recommend it. But Red Dragon that they made after, like next year afterwards, which is a prequel to Silence of the Lambs, basically a remake of Manhunter. Really good. Really a great bounce back from a terrible Hannibal movie. It's a prequel, so we didn't have to deal with Clarice or anything. But we have Anthony Hopkins coming back to Hannibal Lecter. Directed by Brett Ratner. Of all people, Brett Ratner actually does a really good job here. I don't have the best like sense of Brett Ratner as a director, but he does a real good job in this movie. And again, they brought back some suspense. There's some thrills. I was on the edge of my seat in scenes. I thought Red Dragon was almost as good as Silence of the Lambs. It's that good. It's a really good thriller. It's rated R, but there's some gross kills maybe. But I don't think it was too bad. But Anthony Hopkins did a great job. It's like, I don't know what it was. Hannibal, to me, it was a terrible performance. But then he goes back in Red Dragon the next year and does another great performance as Hannibal Lecter, which is such a great character. I mean, he's a horrible serial killer who eats his victims. But at the same time, he's kind of this polite English socialite that you wouldn't think would be a killer. And he's very smart, and he's a psychiatrist, or whatever. And just the way he talks is just so interesting. Anthony Hopkins just nails it. Really fun villainous character, I guess, in a way. Yeah, so don't watch Hannibal, but watch Red Dragon, in my opinion. And we're gonna be covering Hannibal Rising next week, so another prequel that I'm not looking forward to. All right. I hope, Ryan, you're watching this. I did watch Roadhouse, which was Amazon Prime streaming only movie, a remake of the original 80s classic with Patrick Swayze, which I don't know if that's a good movie. I liked it as a kid just because there's, action fighting, I always, had kind of a soft spot in my heart for that movie. I haven't seen it in a while. But so they make a remake with Jake Gyllenhaal kind of in the lead here. And this time he's going to be a bouncer at a bar in like Florida. He's a UFC fighter. And so it kind of follows that same line. And he's trying to teach the other, what do you call them, bouncers how to do their job, I guess, better. Even though he's not really a bouncer, he's a UFC fighter. So I don't get why he's hired to be a bouncer. Because I think the original Patrick Swayze was like a professional bouncer, and that's why they hire him, because he's really good at his job. Anyways, Overall, it was one of the worst movies I've seen. It's one of the worst movies of the year, I would say. And I haven't seen very many movies, but it's not the worst, but it's definitely it was horrible. The fighting, I got, I thought at least there maybe be some good action in it. The fighting was weird. It just looked off the way the camera moved and and it just didn't look real. Like people would get stabbed, but then there felt like there's no blood or something. I don't know. When people got stabbed, they didn't really react the way you think someone would react when they got stabbed. I don't know. Nothing just seemed real. It all seemed fake. And I read like the on IMDb like trivia like that they used a lot of CGI in the fight scene. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. That's why it looked fake and didn't look like a real fight scene. So as far as like action, I didn't really like the action in it. Story was not that interesting. And Jake Gyllenhaal, I thought was very miscast. I mean, he was in good shape. He obviously had the six pack abs, and he was, a little muscular. He had a good overall, he was very fit. Yeah, I don't know. He didn't really fit the role to me. And Jake Gyllenhaal is a great actor, one of the best actors today. Yet I thought he was kind of too good for this role. Like I'm like, what are you doing in this role, Jake? You should be doing more Oscar material, and leave this to somebody that's not as good of an actor as you. So I don't know. To me, it was a bad role for Jake Gyllenhaal. And again, even though he was fit and he was cut, he didn't look that big to me to be like to be a UFC fighter. And I'm not a UFC guy. I like watching professional wrestling, and I would just say professional wrestlers are just way bigger than Jake Gyllenhaal. Jake Gyllenhaal is good shape, but he didn't really fit like that kind of role to me. I don't know. To me, it was just a miscast there. And the character does so many stupid things that I'm like, why did he do that? Like, uh, it's too much to go through, but I don't know. I just thought he made a lot of stupid decisions that I didn't care for the whole character. And the villainess was just again, there's just so many stupid choices throughout the movie that I'm like, why did they do that? That didn't make any sense. Um, and then they got Conor McGregor as this kind of hitman villain character that they hire to go after Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Dalton, I think. Um, and Conor McGregor looks pretty good. He's in really good shape. He's obviously a UFC fighter. He's not an actor. He's got a rough exterior about him, and he looks like a guy. He fits the role, I think, pretty good as far as the way he looks. I think, and all that. Of course, he could probably do a fight scene. All right. He has a weird way of walking. And Ryan, I know you didn't like this movie, so I hope you can agree with me on this stuff. But I don't know how to do it. When he walks like this, like his arms are out like this when he walks, and it's just weird seeing him walk like okay, that's how he walks. Like, is this a character thing or that's Conor McGregor? And he just walks into a scene. What the fuck's going on around here? That's like his whole character. Um, the and the funniest part, and I think Ryan, I hope you agree with me here. The funniest scene to me is he goes to like this place where he meets the main kind of villain guy, the rich guy that hires him, or it's his dad that hires him. But anyways, uh, but he's not there, and they're actually on like a boat. There's this whole boat thing with Jake Gyllenhaal and the villain. They're on the villain boat, and he's supposed to bring him money, I think, or something like that. And he kidnapped this one girl that he likes. Anyways, so this whole scene's happening on this boat, and but then we go back to this place where the villain lives, I think, or whatever. And Conor McGregor walks up into this place, and he looks around. Where the F is everybody? It made me laugh so hard. I don't think it's supposed to be funny, but the way he did it was just so comically stupid. The way he looked around, where the F is everybody? And then we go back like everybody's on this boat, you idiot. Like you. Anyways, and then he shows up for some reason. Like I don't know where he shows. And then he's hired, but yet he has this vendetta against Jake Gyllenhaal's character where he's like trying to kill him for some reason. And he has no reason to. Like Jake Gyllenhaal does nothing against him to want him to kill him. He just likes killing people and hurting people, I guess. That's his whole character. He's just a real terrible person. And there's just so many scenes where he steals clothes. He like beats someone up to steal their clothes. He uh he's always stealing cars. He's always in a different car, and he just stops a car and pulls a guy out, and I guess steals a car. And so he's committing all these kind of crimes throughout the movie. Um, anyways, and and he has like a fight scene with Jake Gyllenhaal in the bar. He finally shows up, like, all right, we're gonna have a fight, you know. And so they have this fight, and then like it never really gets resolved. It's like he's really kind of the better fighter, and he kind of beats up Jake Gyllenhaal basically. But at the end, Jake Gyllenhaal just leaves. He's like, I'm out of here, and he just leaves. I'm like, oh, that's the end of the fight. Like that was not that interesting a fight. And then they have a big fight at the end. And there's a couple things. Uh, this one guy, he's in a boat and he crashes into this bar thing, I think, and he goes flying. He's on like a speedboat, and the speedboat stops, and he flies and bashes into it. I'm thinking, oh, that guy's dead. No way you're going to survive flying off of a speedboat, hitting a wall, and then it's like that guy's dead. No, he gets back up, and I'm like, that guy's still alive. I was like, what the heck? Does reality not exist in this movie, I guess? Anyways, and so then Jake Gyllenhaal and Conor McGregor have this fight, and they're fighting, and Jake Gyllenhaal is trying to make jokes. Like there's a piano, and he bashes his head like on a piano, and he goes, I think this piano's out of tune. I'm like, really? That's the joke? Anyways, and so they're joking anyways, but they're trying to kill each other, basically. And so they're having this fight, and he's actually getting his butt kicked again by Conor McGregor. But then, and Conor McGregor even takes like this is what I hate. He takes like a broken piece of wood from like a chair, and he stabs Jake Gyllenhaal with it. I mean, so I'm thinking, oh, is he going to kill Jake? Like, how's he surviving this stab wound from a? And I'm trying to think, what's that like being stabbed by a broken wood thing? It's jagged. It's Anyway, so Jake Gyllenhaal pulls it out, and I'm thinking, oh, really? He pulled that out? Like, that's got to be. That's a terrible wound. And I work in healthcare, so I'm like, that puts you in the hospital. That might kill you. But he gets up and keeps fighting, and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. And they're still fighting. And then he takes up other broken pieces of wood, and he stabs Conor McGregor like a bunch, and even stabs him like right here, if I remember right, like almost like at the neck. And it was weird. There's hardly, if I remember right, it felt like there's hardly any blood. It just didn't feel real. And they didn't react to the stab wounds like you would normally react to stab. Like I said, it was all CGI, I think. All the wood stabs were like CGI. So it looked fake. It didn't look real. I don't know. It was weird. And so he stabs him, and then he falls over, and I'm thinking, oh, he just murdered Conor McGregor. He's dead. Obviously, you're not going to survive multiple stab wounds from a broken wood chair leg, especially in the neck area. Like, you bleed to death. No, at the very end, the very last scene is Conor McGregor walking out of the hospital, and he beats up the hospital staff. Evidently, he gets put in the hospital. He wakes up, and he decides, oh, I'm out of here. So he like beats up the hospital staff, and you see him leaving the hospital, and he's got a hospital gown on, so he's naked from behind. There's twice you see Conor McGregor naked. There's two naked scenes with Conor McGregor, and that's the very last scene, him walking out of the hospital, and we're going, oh, and I'm like, oh my God, there's no way he's still alive. It's so stupid. Anyways, I know, Ryan, you've talked about this movie, so I hope you agree with me on a lot of these takes. Man, don't get me started on the Roadhouse. It's getting a sequel. Oh my God. They should have made this movie. Definitely not a sequel. It's a no Joker impersonation of Connor is better acting. Yeah, that's what I saw. That's my impersonation of like, just what the F is going on around here? I don't know. It's just it's so goofy. All right, I tried to catch up on some Oscar movies from last year. I finally caught around on Netflix. A lot of Netflix movies recently that I've finally got around to. One is called Minari, which was nominated for Best Picture a couple years ago. Steve Yeun, I think his name is, from Walking Dead, was the main actor, and he got nominated for Best Actor, which was really cool. And it's a whole movie about these Koreans living in Arkansas, maybe, I think, and he's trying to start like a farm, but they don't have a lot of money, and they're fighting, and they have two kids, and anyways, and they're struggling, and but he's trying to start this farm, whatever. Also, the grandmother comes over and like lives with them, and the actress that played the grandmother won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. Anyway, so It was a very Oscar movie. For me, I was really terribly bored with this movie. I give it like, I don't know if I give it half star or 1 star on Letterboxd. It was just painfully boring, slow moving movie, and nothing really happens. To be honest, like it ends and nothing really got resolved. It felt like, and the main part of the movie is just the married couple fight all the time. That they disagree on their what direction the family should go, and they just fight constantly. And you can see the marriage is falling apart. And towards the end, it's like they're going to get divorced, basically. But we never see him get divorced, and we never see if he succeeds. We don't know. Does he succeed at being a farmer? Do they get a divorce? Nothing gets resolved. It's just a terribly slow, boring movie. That's a lot of it's in Korean, some of it's in English, but there's a lot of Korean in there, so you have to read subtitles. It's just my least favorite type of movie. Don't know why I got so much praise. I thought it was really not very good, in my opinion. Probably well done, well acted, whatever, but as a story, did not care. Thanks, for that. Hope you liked my acting. Little acting there. You get a Kevin Hart impression and you get a Conor McGregor impression on the same live stream. Where else do you see that? I ask you. All right, we got another Oscar. Got some Oscar nominations from this last year, or one at least, I think. And that's called Society of the Snow, which was on Netflix. I think it might have been a Netflix main movie as well. It got nominated for Best Makeup at the last year's Oscar. And I don't know why I decided to watch this, because I was like, I got an Oscar nomination. I'll check it out. I knew I wasn't going to like the movie because it's just a tough subject matter. It's based on a true story, and they made, I think, a movie before on this. But this, I forget if they're from like Argentina or something like that. It's a soccer team that flying over the like Andes Mountains or something like that, I think, and they crash land in the mountains, and the remaining people that have to live on this mountain in very bad conditions, very cold, of course, and of course they have nothing to eat, so they're starving, and so they have to start eating each other, and that's like the big thing about it is they have to eat the people that die, they start eating them to survive. And of course there's a whole thing of like, is it morally okay to eat somebody? And it's like, well, if we need to survive, it might be okay. Anyway, so there's I'll say some interesting conflict there, but it's just a really hard show to watch. I really had a hard time watching it. I knew I would, and it was. Watching people slowly dying, kind of. Well, some of them do survive, of course. That's the only good part of the movie is at the end, some of them do get rescued, and based off true story. And so it's crazy that they lived like a month or something like that on this mountain, which is insane. I just can't believe anybody survived that. First off, surviving plane crashes is very rare. Second of all, not freezing to death. I can't believe they didn't freeze to death on top of that mountain. And then thirdly, starving to death. I mean, they're just in really bad condition. So, I mean, it's a well-made movie, I guess, but I can't recommend it just because it's a hard movie to watch. Really hard movie to watch. So that's The Society of the Snow. Another movie I saw on Netflix called Naiad, which got a Best Actress nomination for the lead actress, which I'm forgetting at the moment, and got a Best Supporting Actress nomination for Jodie Foster. I forgot. I'm sorry. I'm forgetting the main actress's name. I'm starting to get a little tired from doing this live stream because I'm almost 2 hours in or so. So we'll probably end it pretty soon, but try to get a couple of these movies in. But yeah, Naiad. It's based on a true story of a woman. I think her name was like Diane Naiad, and she did these really incredible long distance swimming events, I guess. And she was a woman, and it kind of talks about, and I didn't know anything about this person. It's a real person. I was like, oh, I didn't know that. But like when she was in her 20s, she was like the first woman to swim from Florida to somewhere, I forget now, and to Cuba or something like that. I can't remember. She had this huge swim that she was like the first woman to do it. and it's crazy. Like, like I can't believe it's possible to swim that far. I can't swim a foot, before I get tired. So I can't imagine even I can't go very far. I get real tired real easy. So it's just crazy that someone can do that. But the whole movie is that now she's like in her 60s and she wants to do this huge swim she's wanted to do her whole life. But she's tried it a couple times, never been able to. It's the hardest swim like ever, just almost impossible swim um, that she's been trying to do. And now I'm forgetting. It was Florida. I said one's like Florida to like Cuba or something like that, or Florida somewhere. Anyways, and it's like this impossible swim, and she never able to do it. Now she's in her 60s, which is crazy. That she thinks now in her 60s she can perform this really, really hard. I mean, I can't believe it. I'm 40 and I can't imagine even trying something like this. And she's in her 60s and she's like, yeah, I'm going to do this really the most difficult swim that no one's ever accomplished before. And so the whole movie is her trying to rev up, preparing for the swim. In fact, it takes her like 5 tries. She tries it 5 times before she finally does it. I mean, spoilers, she does. The whole movie kind of goes to where she succeeds in this huge long swim. And so it's all about that. I thought it was an okay movie. I give it 3 out of 5 stars, which is a light recommend. I think the performances are pretty good. I think the subject matter actually kind of got a little bit interesting. I mean, the only thing was like watching an old woman swim isn't like the most exciting thing. And, and so a lot of that. And the main character was very unlikable, I would say. She was kind of a jerk character that I didn't, and she got mad at her friends and people that were trying to help her. She would constantly, and they're just looking out for her best interests. And she's like, no, I'm going to still do it, And so her personality, I didn't like her as a character necessarily, but I do appreciate the idea that she's not going to, she's not going to give up. There's a whole thing about not giving up. That's, very inspiring. Also, the idea that even when you're in your 60s, you can still do some cool stuff. I mean, you're not too old yet. And I'm 40 and I feel like I'm getting too old to do stuff. I've seen that. I'm like, gosh, this lady's 60 and I'm 40. I can probably, I shouldn't let anything limit me, So I like that idea behind it. And just the idea of doing that swim is actually very interesting, kind of all the dynamics, the logistics that goes into it. Anyway, so overall, I thought it was an okay movie. 3 out of 5 stars for Naiad. All right, we'll talk about the best movie I've seen in a long time that I saw on Netflix, and it's called Living. And this I watched because it got an Oscar nomination for Best Actor for I haven't seen Frozen Empire. I've just seen Afterlife, and I didn't care for Afterlife, so I'll talk about Frozen Empire when I see it eventually. But yeah, Living. It stars is it Bill Skarsgård? I think is the main actor. I'm forgetting. It's a Skarsgård, right? Am I right? Am I saying that right? Gosh, I hate that. I don't know how I can get that information, but I think that's the name of the actor. Um, uh, he got an Oscar nomination for Best Actor for this movie. I didn't really know. It didn't come out in theaters, I don't think, around here, called Living. And I never really knew this movie except for got an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. But didn't really know anything about the movie. Didn't know if it'd be any good, but I was like, I'll check it out because it got an Oscar nomination for Best Actor. So I've been checking out a lot of Oscar stuff lately. Anyways, this movie floored me, surprised me. It is an awesome movie. I give 5 stars on Letterboxd. It's one of the best movies I've ever seen. And I might be over exaggerating it, but man, I absolutely love this movie and can't recommend enough. If I can recommend one thing, man, to anybody, stop what you're doing and watch Living as soon as you can. And maybe not everybody will have the same impact, but it had an impact on me watching it. And how to talk about it without going through any spoilers. I would love for people to watch this movie and not really know much about it. But it's about this guy he's in England, and I think it's set in the 50s. Yeah, set in the 1950s in London, England. Which again, I love that setting. I love watching people in the 1950s in London. Come on, I mean, all the guys are wearing, those hats. I love that period where they're wearing the hats and they're wearing the suits and the women are wearing dresses. Like the style. I love the whole style. Love. I've been to London. I love London. It's a really cool place. So I love the whole setting, the whole time period, the setting, the fashion, everything's great. But anyway, so he works at he's like an accountant or something, but he works like at a government like accounting business thing, whatever. And he's kind of the supervisor, I guess, on this accounting, or I say accounting. I'm not sure what to call it. Whatever I call it, accounting, I guess, accounting, anyways. And he has these employees, um, and he has to go to a doctor's visit. And I guess I'm spoiling the movie a little bit, but it's the main part of the movie. He goes to a doctor visit, and the thing about the character is he's very quiet. He's very, he doesn't talk about his life at all. He doesn't show emotions at all. He's this very like motionless character who is very quiet. Doesn't really talk to anybody. Doesn't really get to know people. Anyway, that's just kind of the way he lives his life. Anyway, it's just proper English guy, kind of thing. Anyway, so he goes to the doctor, and he's like 70 years. He's like in his 70s, I think. And the doctor says, you have cancer and you have 6 months to live. And so this is a huge blow. And so he kind of is like trying to figure out what to do with the rest of the 6 months he has to live, and that's called living. And so he doesn't go to work for a little while because like doesn't feel like going to work. And so everybody that's employed there, like, what happened to the boss? He never misses a day, and now he's been gone for a couple of days. Like something's wrong. And he doesn't tell his family. He doesn't tell the employees. He kind of keeps it secret, like he doesn't want to burden people. So his family doesn't know, but he's kind of acting a little strange. But the great part of the movie is there's a girl that works at the place, a younger girl that works at the place, and he kind of sees her, and he kind of hangs out with her a little bit, which at first was like a little weird, like this old guy hanging out with this younger woman. But then you kind of get more of his personality. He's actually a really nice guy, and very, very generous. And he tells her that he's actually dying of cancer. She's like the only person he tells in the whole movie. And he says and she's like, why are you hanging out with me? And I'm spoiling the movie, I'm sorry. But he's just like, he's trying to figure out how to live the rest of his life. And that's what's so interesting about the movie. And what he does with the rest of his life, he finally decides, hey, I'm going to do something that's going to benefit, it's going to benefit people. So he spends what's left of his life doing something good for other people and benefiting other people and doing something like for most of the movie, like working he's a Burke. He works for this bureaucrat, whatever, the government, which nothing gets done. Government's terrible at getting stuff done. They just put everything on the back burner and nothing gets done. And so the whole movie is like him, like he gets these projects that he's supposed to do, and he goes, well, and it's always this thing where like, well, it's not my job, it's someone else's job, but I'll just put the paperwork here and let it sit here for a long time, and maybe it'll get done. And so that's the whole movie is like, or at the beginning part of the movie, you're like, oh man, nothing's getting done, and so then when he kind of decides that he's going to do something with the rest of his life that he has left, and he decides like, okay, I'm going to get some projects done. I'm not just going to put stuff on the back burner. I'm actually going to be active and get stuff done. And that's where the movie really takes off, and it's just really great. I just love the whole idea of like trying to find, you only have 6 months to live. What do you do? And how do you impact everybody for the benefit? And so he does, and what he does is just so nice. It's so sweet. I guess I love this movie, just how nice and sweet it is. And what he does is just it's so great. And it's definitely a movie that's like a tearjerker movie. It's a very moving movie. That's why it's like, I think everybody should watch this movie. It's surprised the heck out of me. I wasn't expecting anything. And I came away just feeling so, inspired, moved, by the subject matter. And what he does, I thought was great. And how I can't say too much, but yeah, I've already said enough. But the way they end the movie, oh my gosh, it's so amazing. And because they kind of go forward and backwards in time. So you kind of see the results of what he does. And then you kind of go back and see how he got it done. And then how it impacts the people around him. People are like, wow, this guy, we never thought much about him. And then he does this amazing thing and inspires all the other characters in the movie to do what he does and try to make the most out of life. And it's so the final thing about the movie is like, it's a movie about making the most of what you have, because we don't know how much longer we have to live. This guy knew he had 6 months to live, so he knew he had to do something. I could die tomorrow. I could die today. There's no guarantees in life. I'm 40 years old. Hopefully, I have another 40 years left in me before I pass away. You don't know. And so, of course, in my mind, I'm thinking I have a while to live. So I don't think about, oh, I need to get this done or that done. I feel like I have time. And the truth is, I don't have time. And so sometimes it makes me think, gosh, this movie makes me think, gosh, I really should do stuff now. I shouldn't wait and put everything out. And I'm really bad at that. I'm a really bad procrastinator. I'm really bad at putting things on the back burner. And it really makes me think about my own life and think about, I really should do stuff now while I know I'm alive, and I should do stuff that impacts other people and benefits other people. And I hope I'm doing that in my life. And I hope I continue to try to do stuff that helps other people, because more than anything, I want to leave this world with people saying, gosh, Jason was a great guy, and he was nice to people, and he sacrificed and did things for others. Like, I want that more than money or fame or anything. I just want people to go, gosh, what a great guy Jason was. That's my hope in my life. And that's what I thought about this movie, Living. Anyway, so I can't recommend enough. Please check it out. Well, I'm getting, my voice is getting a little hoarse. About done with my water. I had some other movies on here, but to be honest, Living, I think that's a great ending to the stream, talking about that movie, a movie that I actually love and hope people watch. That I'll probably end it there, and whatever I didn't cover, I'll have to cover the next week. I mean, the next month on what I've been watching. I just have to pour over because I just saw so much stuff. I can't cover it. And almost 2 hours. These streams usually take 2 hours. It takes me a long time to really put my thoughts, because I really want to put my thoughts out there, try to analyze stuff as best I can, give you my best thoughts of why I thought something was good or bad. And hopefully, I will hope people enjoy what I put out there anyways. And I'm so happy with you guys commenting and watching. Hope you guys are enjoying it, especially Ryan. Ryan, you've become, you're someone I really enjoy. I love your videos. Love talking to you. I hope we collaborate more, to be honest, Ryan. You're one of my favorite people. Just between me, you, and anybody watching this stream. Is this 7 pounds? I missed it. It's a real powerful movie, an amazing performance from Will Smith. Yeah, I remember that movie coming out. I haven't seen it, but you're saying it's another movie like this one that you really like. Impressive how you despise him at the start, and then despise you thought that by the end. So you think it's a similar movie to this, maybe? Yeah, I've heard that. That's another movie. I think I don't know if he's dying or something like that, and I've heard about that movie, but I haven't seen it. Another probably another tearjerker movie, but yeah, you too, Zeb. Take care. Ryan, Zeb, my sister Abby. I know there's what was his name? Australian, I think guy. Playing Down Under. Appreciate you. And yeah, comment what do you think about any of these movies, TV shows, stand-up specials. Yeah, hopefully you watch these 2 hours and aren't too bored with it. Like some of my takes, some of my impressions. Hopefully impressions were good. And just, yeah, appreciate everybody. And hope everybody has a really good weekend. And I will see you guys later.